The 8th of March 2014, at 12:42 in the morning, Malaysian Airlines Flight MH370 took off from Kuala Lumpur. This flight was headed from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. There were 227 passengers on this flight, 10 flight attendants, and 2 pilots flying this plane. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, 53 years old, one of their senior-most captains in Malaysian Airlines and highly experienced, and First Officer Farid Hamid, 27 years old. It was a training flight for him. After completing this training flight, he would have been fully certified to become a pilot. This plane flew in the right direction for about 20 minutes. At 1:08 in the morning, the plane crossed over Malaysia's coast. Then it flew over the South China Sea. It was heading toward Vietnam. Zahari said the plane was flying at 35,000 feet. Everything seemed normal. About 11 minutes later, the plane moved into Vietnam's airspace. So, the air traffic control in Kuala Lumpur called the plane and said, "Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh on 120.9. Good night."
370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Captain Zahari answered by saying, "Good night, Mass 370. Everything sounds normal, and it was normal till this point in time. But these words by Captain Zahari were the last words from this airplane. After this, there was no news from this flight. The Malaysian Airlines flight disappeared suddenly, and this became the biggest aviation mystery in the world.
MH370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight.
Malaysia Airlines flight.
Malaysian 370.
Flight MH370 ended in the southern Indian Ocean.
70, we are ready. Requesting flight number 310 to Beijing.
Flight MH370
Disappeared en route to Beijing.
Merely 30 seconds after entering the Vietnamese airspace, this plane disappeared from the radar. Suddenly, it was 1:21 a.m. in the morning. The air traffic control in Kuala Lumpur didn't notice this. And when they do, they think that plane had flown out of the range of their radar and had entered Vietnam's airspace. So there's nothing unusual. On the other hand, the air traffic control in Vietnam saw that the MH370 entered their airspace, but disappeared from their radar suddenly. They tried to communicate with the plane, but there was no response from the other side. After repeatedly trying for 18 minutes, Vietnamese controllers informed Kuala Lumpur that MH370 had disappeared suddenly. Generally, in such situations, Kuala Lumpur's Aeronautical Rescue Coordination Center should have been notified within 1 hour about the disappearance of the plane. But it was after 4 hours had passed that an emergency response began. It was 6:32 in the morning. This was the time by when the airplane should have landed in Beijing, but it did not land. A search operation was called immediately. Efforts began to find the plane. If you look at the map, the plane was flying from Malaysia to Beijing. Vietnam lies in the middle, as well as the South China Sea. So obviously, the search operation began in the South China Sea to look for the plane. This search operation was an international effort. 34 ships and 28 aircraft from 7 different countries tried to look for this plane that morning, but there was no trace of the plane. On the 12th of March, it was reported that though the plane had disappeared from the civilian radar, but a military radar had spotted the plane that night. And surprisingly, according to this military radar, this plane was last seen at 2:22 a.m., but it wasn't located above the South China Sea. Rather, it was near the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, westward from Malaysia, above the Strait of Malacca. And according to the readings of this military radar, this plane was flying north in the direction of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, the other way from Beijing. This news left everyone shocked. Then a new piece of evidence was discovered from satellite data. It was found that the plane was trying to automatically communicate with a satellite. It is actually quite common. So large airplanes like the Boeing 777 They try to establish communication with satellites often to make their communication easier. It is the same as your phone trying to automatically connect to known Wi-Fi, but the problem was that when this plane communicated with the satellite, it merely tried to log in, trying to establish a connection. No data was transmitted about the Afghanistan's location of the plane. But some scientists and investigators thought to use this to approximate the location of the plane. They thought that when the satellite received the communication, the satellite would have moved its antenna towards the direction of the plane. So they took the angle of the antenna of the satellite to measure it and make calculations upon it, estimated the location of the plane. The precise location of the plane could not be determined using satellite data. However, the satellite did help estimate a possible area where the aircraft might have been. This estimated area is represented by a white circle, indicating that the plane could have been anywhere within its boundaries at the time of attempted communication. The aircraft made 7 efforts to connect with the satellite, which is why there are 7 white circles visible. These are referred to as satellite handshakes. Each circle corresponds to a specific time when the plane attempted to make contact. The final, or 7th, circle marks the last known attempt, suggesting the most recent possible location of the aircraft before it lost all communication. It was really surprising because the last circle was very big. It covered a huge area starting from Kazakhstan and China, going down to Indonesia and Australia, and even a large part of the ocean. This means the plane could have been anywhere inside that big circle. Or maybe it even went beyond that area. This circle shows the last time the plane tried to talk to the satellite. After that, the investigators did more calculations. They looked at how fast the plane was flying and how much fuel was left. Based on that, they made an estimate of where the plane might be. They believed the plane could be somewhere in a curved, shaded part of a circle. This part became known as the 7th arc. The 7th arc is about 2,000 kilometers west of Australia and covers a huge area of the ocean. The plane was believed to have crashed in a part of the ocean that hasn't been explored much. On this map, you can see where the satellite used for the prediction was located. The outermost yellow dotted circle shows the farthest distance the plane could have flown with the fuel it had, based on a flight time of 7 hours. The red curved line you see on the map is called the 7th arc. This is the area where they think the plane might have crashed. After this, several search operations were launched. The yellow shaded regions on the map show the places where these searches took place. The orange area is the priority search zone, where the most intense searching happened. By April 2014, the search for the plane on the ocean surface was stopped because it wasn't successful. Since the plane had crashed, it would have sunk and wouldn't be floating on the surface. Therefore, they searched the deep ocean for a long time. At that time, it was the biggest and most expensive search ever. People kept looking for the plane for weeks, months, and even years, but they couldn't find anything. After 3 years, and spending $160 million, the search was stopped. In the end, the whole operation was seen as a failure. There was one piece of good news in the middle of all this. In July 2015, the first piece of debris from the plane was found. It had floated to Reunion Island, which is located east of Madagascar. The part that was discovered was a flaperon, a broken piece from the plane's wing. You can see it in the photo. It's clearly a damaged part of the aircraft. After this, in 2018, an American company called Ocean Infinity made a new deal with the Malaysian government. They offered to search for the missing plane again, but with one condition. If they didn't find anything, they wouldn't charge any money. No fine, no fee. Based on this agreement, they started a new search mission. They used very advanced underwater vehicles to scan the ocean. While searching, they also created detailed maps of the ocean floor. In the area known as the 7th arc, they discovered many underwater volcanoes, steep cliffs, and tall mountains. They continued the search for months, but sadly, they couldn't find the plane either. Their mission also ended in failure. Malaysian police also began a third investigation. They looked into all possible angles, including running background checks on the passengers and pilots. They wanted to understand their histories and find out if anyone might have tried to hijack the plane. After these investigations, several theories started to come forward. But the reality of what happened to the plane could not be found. And if you also want to know about the theories, comment below. I'll cover them in part 2.
By data from British Inmarsat satellites, figures from Boeing, Australian oceanographers, and new WhisperNet amateur radio wave technology.